We have a guest joining us in the studio, and we haven't seen him since the Twin Falls County Fair, and that is State Attorney General Lawrence Wasden.
Hey,
And
hello.
and
Nice to be here.
of all those people on the bus, you knew how to get to Twin Falls.
Yeah, I did know how to get to Twin Falls. I grew up here.
I was going to say, it's an interesting group of people that are on this bus because you've got folks from all over the state, and
Correct.
I've been asking them about the reactions you're getting to when the bus pulls into these different communities because let's face it, if you're in eastern Idaho or southern Idaho or north Idaho or somewhere in the capital district area, sometimes the concerns from people are going to be maybe some of them are the same obviously, but there's going to be some variance. And
Yeah, there's a lot of difference. It's different north to south. It's different east to west. The concerns that they have and the way they articulate those concerns.
Mhm.
The history of the state is varied as well. The topography is varied as well. That all adds to the mix. That's why it's really important for us to go out to those communities because we get to hear the world from their perspective. And as a decision maker, that is critical information. That doesn't mean that their view is necessarily complete because there's a bigger picture, but you have to know the smaller parts to see the bigger picture as well. Just like a television screen, the pixels or your computer screen, the pixels that come in are small, but you need to have them to see the broader picture.
now, one of the interesting things about your office, and because just before Steve left the studio, we were talking off air, and you made a reference to litigation, but you do some criminal prosecutions,
Correct.
but you do a lot of other legal efforts in that office too. And I think from the public's perspective, they see the criminal prosecutions, but that's really the tip of the iceberg.
Correct. It's only one small slice of the pie that I am involved in. I have about 200 people in my office, about 120 lawyers, give or take, and we are responsible for two major things. Number one, we give legal advice to all state officers. That doesn't mean they necessarily follow that advice, but we are required to give them advice based on legal issues. That's not the policy issues, it's the legal issues. And secondly, then, after they make their decisions, if the state sues someone or the state is sued by someone, my office is responsible for representing the state in court. So we have those two basic pots of things that we do. But so we're involved in the litigation. We don't actually make the decisions
But
for the most part.
that's the difference, I think, between what you see maybe with a local prosecutor's office versus with what you see at the state level.
Right. And the local prosecutor's office come in two flavors there. One, the city attorneys, and they do a lot of civil work for their cities, but they also then prosecute misdemeanors. The county prosecutor has a responsibility to prosecute misdemeanors that occur in the county outside of the incorporated cities, and also all felonies that occur in the county. But they also have a workload of civil matters that they work on for the county as well. They are the county attorney in that aspect.
I wanted to mention it's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock on Magic Valley this morning, and we're at 43. State Attorney General Lawrence Wasden in the studio with us. Bill Colley with you until 10 a.m. this morning. And one thing I'm sure that you get since you're on this public tour, first of all, you could walk away from this and go to private practice and earn tremendous amounts of money.
Yes.
So why do you keep doing it?
Because I feel like I still have something that I can contribute. You get up in the morning and you go to work and you're not even really sure what you're going to do during the day. And at the end of the day, you're not really sure what it is you've done. But you make a difference and you improve people's lives. And they don't always know that and they don't always appreciate it. But there is a personal reward for knowing that you made a difference in the system. Our system requires of us participation by just the average everyday person. It's our greatest strength, and it's also, in a sense, our greatest weakness, or the lack of that participation is our greatest weakness. So I still feel like I have something I can contribute, and it's worthwhile.
One thing too that I noticed because of the nature of your work, and I don't mean to use the term bellyache, but there are people out there sometimes who aren't always happy with the result that they see. But
Bellyache's the mild term.
yeah. We have to note that when you make a decision on a prosecution, you have to be taking in a lot of different evidence. And sometimes you have to realize from a prosecutorial stance that this might not be worth the effort, the cost, because if we don't get a conviction and we spend all this money, then those same people are going to turn around and say, "Hey, why'd you do that?" And
Right.
so, rock in a hard place, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. First of all, you have to know what the facts are. That's a critical part of the process. So you have people, investigators and police agencies that go out and they collect the facts. You have to take those facts and you apply that against the law. And sometimes there's some vagary in the law. I mean, people thinks that maybe this doesn't fit in this square hole. You have to take all of those things into account. And then you also have to take into account what is it I can prove. And then there's some rules that apply on all of that. And that is if you cannot establish what's called probable cause, a reason to believe that a crime was committed and that this person committed it, the rules say you cannot bring that forward. And also, under the ABA rules, if we cannot prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, is it appropriate for you to use the power of the state to bring a criminal charge when you know that you cannot prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? And the answer is no. That is an abuse of your power, because that's the standard that you must meet. So you have to take all of those things into account when you're making a determination.
We got a couple of minutes left, and you had some legislative background before all of this. Does that help too when you're dealing with government in Idaho?
Yes, absolutely. I worked for a state agency. It was a deputy. I actually worked for the Attorney General, but I was assigned to a state agency. But my primary function was to prepare legislation and work with legislators and help them understand the legal parameters. And so, yes, is very helpful because I understand what the legislative process is, and I have people on staff who are intimately involved with the legislative process because we are required by the law to answer legislators' questions about their office. And they ask us, the law says we are required to provide them an answer. We're happy to do that. We'll handle 200 to 300, 400 questions during a legislative session, and about 90% of those we'll answer within 24 hours. I mean, it's a huge effort to do that.
And that relationship, by the way, with them is going to be important because as we approach that 2 million level in population,
right,
at some point, caseloads grow. You're going to need bigger staffs. You've got to convince them there's a need for it.
Right, exactly. And, people have often said, well, do you really need that many lawyers? And the answer is yes. When you consider the fact that the state the general fund plus the dedicated funds, it's about $6.3 billion annually. That's how big that operation is. And it requires lawyers to advise that many places, that many things that are going on. So it really is a pretty massive job.
We've got about 30 seconds to go. Web presence, you doing any social media going into this election?
Well, I have a web page. It's at www.lawrencewasden, that's one word lowercase.com, lawrencewasden.com, and it talks about, my view of the world and why I do what I do.
And all the people locally know how to spell that because they went to school with you. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's LAWRENCEWASDEN.com.
Were you a Bruin?
I am a Bruin.
Yeah. Pass by there frequently.
That's right.
On the drive to and from work.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming by. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And hello to all my folks here in Twin Falls. I grew up with a really great group of kids, so they're good people, part of this community.
Built a pretty good city, too. 7:15, we've got a short break for the Ag Report, also the weather. And then Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, who expects to become governor in just a couple of months, will be joining us in the studio on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com.